Good afternoon, gentlemen. I don't see any lady here in the audience yet. Maybe. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, lady and gentlemen. It's great that we have some female people here attending the session. Unfortunately, I don't speak any Czech. Therefore, we have to do the session in English. I think what I figured out during the last 1 or 2 hours at the booth that, please come in. After the last 2 hours at the booth that a lot of you are perfect in English, so I think that will work out pretty well. From a logistic point of view, we have someone here can answer or can translate question from Czech into English, you know. It's my friend from Arrow at the end of the session. So if there are questions, just feel free to ask at the end of the sessions in your local language, and he's translating it, and then me or my colleague on the side from a technical perspective can answer that. Okay, so let's get started. I'm my name is Johannes Kunz. I'm running the channel in Europe, Middle East, and Africa for SimpliVity. And the next 30 minutes, I would like to give a little bit of an overview of what we do and why we think we have really revolutionary technology here to present. SimpliVity is one of the biggest innovations in enterprise computing since VMware. This is not, you know, someone from the street saying this is. I'm not sure whether you're a little bit familiar with investor relationships. So Kleiner Perkins is one of our key investors in the company. Kleiner Perkins, they are people who invested in Amazon, in Google. They invested in Tesla, for example. So one of the big investment firms in Silicon Valley. So they think that, and they invested in us heavily. They think that we are something like VMware. And I'm going to show you why they heavily invested in us and why they think that we can be a similar kind of success story like VMware. Please take a seat. So, starting with, you know, what keeps CIOs awake at night is always the same. They got a lot of pressure today. The data center is getting more and more complex. As you know, it's really a challenging thing for them to manage all the data. Their CFOs come to them and say, you have to do more with less, of course, reduce the budget, reduce the headcount, and so on. So what they do is they also look at these companies like Facebook and Google, and they ask themselves, maybe I can do a similar thing like they have done. You know, build a data center on x86 kind of building blocks. The big question what they always have is, can I run all my enterprise, all the enterprise capabilities I need? Can I run it on an x86 platform? We know that Google and Facebook, they have specific developed kind of applications which are not in the space of Oracle or SharePoint. They have special stuff which can easily run on x86. But a lot of CIOs look at this model because it's less expensive. On the other hand, you know, and I think some of you maybe have seen this kind of data centers already from your customers or in your own data centers. This is what if we go out to our customers, this is how some of their customers' data center look like. So it shows that it's not easy to manage any longer, and where the challenges are. The challenge in the end of the day, if you do a very, very precise analytics, is on the data side. So you might say, okay, this drive is growing. When I was young, I have quite some gray hair. And when I was young, I was dealing with 20 megabyte disk drives. Unbelievable. So, and I had an interview, I still remember in one of the German magazines, and we're talking about the terabyte revolution. Today we talk about zettabytes and petabytes and these kind of things. So the disk drives were growing. So the data was exploring. It's about 40 zettabyte in 2020. These are numbers which you all know. The big challenge is the performance on the disk drive. So this was growing about 10-15% over the last, I would say, 20 years. So now you have lots of data, and you have to write it on a disk, and the challenge is that you have this I think 6 terabyte disk drives today, but the challenge is to get it onto the disk. And therefore, the challenges from a data perspective is not only capacity, it's much, much more. So if you would like to, specifically in the virtualized environment, if you would like to move a virtual machine around, it takes you quite some time. I think you made this experience. If you want to back up a virtual machine, it takes you time. Sometimes you even cannot back up a single virtual machine. You have to back up the whole data store. It takes you even more time. So data protection is a key thing. Mobility, data migration between different sites, and management of the data. And you saw the picture. Normally what you have a specific management tool to manage the data. So this is what we think is the real data problem and how it's affected specifically in a virtualized environment. Now let's go a little bit step back and have a look at over the last 10 years how the whole IT is involved and what's happened. So normally what you see here, you had different kind of servers running different operating systems, having their own storage, having their own application. This is a scenario I think a lot of you are familiar with. So what happened then is that this shared storage arrays came up. SIM provisioning, dynamic tiering, all these kind of features happened on the storage array. So you had a shared pool of storage. That was the first kind of what we call horizontal revolution. Secondly, what happened, VMware came into play, and they virtualized the physical servers and the memory. So this was a typical scenario. Then, of course, you had to install a remote data center. And to get data over the remote data center, what happened? The data is getting more and more and more. In the beginning, it was okay. Then someone maybe from Riverbed came to you or from Cisco or said, you need a WAN optimization because you cannot get your data over to the data center. Okay, you bought a WAN optimization, fine. Then backup comes into play. And maybe you have to do the backup to a remote site. And what you do is you dedupe, maybe, you compress the data and send it over to the remote site. By the way, you do the same with the WAN optimization. You dedupe the data, you compress it and send it over to the remote site. Cloud gateway. Another appliance came up. Yes, we have to be cloud ready. We need a cloud gateway. What we do, we dedupe, we compress the data into the cloud. And then, of course, speed, performance, SSD arrays, SSD cache, SSD in the virtual servers, SSD in the physical servers, and in the storage array. You find everywhere, you find SSDs. But this is a scenario, what you need to run an enterprise today. Because what you need for the enterprise is data protection, yes, we have it. You need data efficiency, you need performance, and you need a global unified management. Now, this is where we come in. And now listen what we're doing. We're taking this whole stack of 10, 12 different products where you have to pay maintenance, where you have to do support for these products, where you have to service the whole stack, and we put it into one 2U building block. And we call it the OmniCube. You might think, how are they going to do it? Is that reality? On top of that, what we do with the OmniCube, we have a centralized global management. So we have a plug-in into vCenter. You can run and admin the whole thing out of vCenter. And of course, you have a huge TCO savings. It's up to 300%. It always sounds big, those numbers. Well, we can prove that. We have TCO calculators, and we are more than happy to come to you and do this calculation with you. But in the end, it's one building block. Now, so what is the magic behind that? It's very, very easy. What we do here is we look at the data from a different point of view. Before we write the data from the application to the disk, we dedupe it, we compress, and optimize it once and forever of the lifetime of this data. So you don't have to do it through your backup appliance, you don't have to do it through your other kind of appliances. We do it once before it hits the disk. And how we do it, I explain to you later. So this is where we think that we combine these two worlds. You know, the x86 world of the Facebook, Google kind of approach, together with an enterprise approach. Now, going back to our picture, if we put the OmniCube in now in this picture, first what we did is we take the primary storage and move it into the OmniCube. Now, as I said, all the data is deduped, compressed, and optimized once or forever. Do we need a WAN optimization? No, we don't need WAN optimization because the pipe between the data centers is very slow because we only move a couple of blocks around. Do we need a specific disk backup appliance? No, we don't need that. Because everything is deduped, compressed, optimized. You don't need to have a specific appliance for that. Do we need data protection? Yes, of course, but it's built into the box. Do we need cloud gateway? Yes, but it comes in the box. And the same with SSD. So it's all built in this one building block. So you can connect this now to a remote data center. You can create a cluster in your own data center, and you can create what we call a federation around the globe. You can have 2 OmniCubes in San Francisco, 2 in Prague, 2 in Boston, 2 in Munich. These all speak to each other. That would be quite an interesting and nice storage box. Now what we put on top is ESX as a layer. So we're running VMware ESX on top of the box. And we can run up to 200, 250 virtual machines on each of these OmniCubes. And we have access to the public cloud. And this is how the whole thing works. Again, you know, we have bought both. You know, our OmniCube is built on x86 servers. So we took the cloud economics and combined it with enterprise capabilities. Because we have data protection in there. We have a very, very efficient data approach. We have quite significant performance, and as I said, we can manage the whole thing out of vCenter. How many are using VMware in this room? Okay, most of you. Of course, on the roadmap, I always get the question, what's about Hyper-V, what's about KVM? Yes, it is on the roadmap, but for the day, today, and for the next couple of months, our really, really strong focus is on VMware. It will come, and I think this is, today VMware has also the biggest market share. So let's go a little bit more into why we think that we can solve the data problem. So within the OmniCube, we have a PCI card, and we call it a data virtualization platform. This is a piece of hardware combined with software. What this does, and I have to repeat it again because this is a key aspect of our technology, we dedupe, compress, and optimize inline in real time before the data hits the disk. And we also, of course, we do that through all tiers. We have a tiered storage system built into the box, whether it's DRAM or SSD or just a plain HDD. Secondly, we have a global unified management. And this is very important from a VMware perspective because it's VMware-centric. So the smallest unit what we look at is a virtual machine. So we can take a virtual machine and back it up, or we store it within seconds. If you would like to have a demo, you are invited to our booth, and we can show you that online, live here at the booth. So you can do the backups very easy, but you also can move virtual machines around. If you would like to set up a virtual machine, you're in a data center in Prague, you would like to set up a virtual machine in Singapore, for example, you can do that very easily with a mouse click. You don't need a specific whatever, server, storage, backup, admin anymore. You can go to your VMware admin, can explain the whole thing to him, and I would say after an hour he can easily manage the whole thing out of vCenter. And finally, we call ourselves hyper-converged. So I think you have heard about what convergence is, and I would like to explain a little bit what we understand of hyper-converged. So we discussed the legacy stack already. What happened in 2009 is, and most of the stuff, by the way, happened in 2009. Companies came up like, in this case, VCE or FlexPod. Products came up like this, and what they did is they just wrapped a piece of software and a piece of service around storage and servers. This is all what they did. This was the beginning, the start of converged solution. It was quite hype. Specifically for really large deployments in enterprises. What happened then is, and it's happened also in 2009, but those companies are behind that, it took them a little bit longer to develop the product. You can imagine that this is, you have to put a lot of more engineering resources on top of that to create this kind of solution. So what you see here is a shared pool of resources of storage and server. We call that Converged 2.0. Companies who are doing it quite recently was announced by VMware. They call it Evo Rail. And there is another company starting with an N, Nutanix, who is doing that as well. So they have developed a product on what we call Converged 2.0. So the big difference is that what you can see in this slide is they really don't care about the data. You know, they care about server and storage, get it out of one pool. Okay, the admin part is a little bit more easier now. Don't have to create these loons and stuff. You know, it's easy to manage. But from a data problem perspective, it's not done. So it took us, and this is the big difference, it took us 43 months to develop the product. We also started in 2009. And I always take the comparison with a cake. I think some of you in the audience, I've talked today at the booth, I explained the cake thing. If you bake a cake, and if the cake is ready, and you taste the cake, and you think, oh, that would be nice if I have one more egg, or maybe 100 grams of sugar, you can't do it. You can't open the cake and put the egg in. It's done, it's baked. So I think this is the big difference. This thing has put a lot of engineering power, and it really serves what we call, again, both worlds. You know, the cloud economics web scale, where a lot of companies like to jump on, and then also the enterprise capabilities, you know, like data protection, data efficiency, global unified management. This is Tech Validate. A couple of people are familiar maybe with Tech Validate. It's an online survey where the customers go and put the stuff in. Because I'm always getting the question, what are your customers running on your OmniCubes? You know, and you see it here. You know, it's all different kind of applications. It's not only VDI or not only a specific database. It's all sort of applications. You're starting with Oracle, Exchange, SQL, SharePoint, and so on. And what's also interesting is 65% of our customers are running their whole IT on our OmniCubes already. Of course, the big enterprises, as you can imagine, this doesn't work because they cannot take all their legacies, take out from one day to the other and put our stuff in. So it's a kind of a journey what we do with them. But what we see is they're coming back. They're coming back, buying more kit because they see the advantage. From an efficiency point of view, similar effect. If you always talk about efficiency or rates of more than 100%, sometimes people don't believe. This is a survey from some of our customers. So 35% is have a saving of up to 50%, and we have also savings in the range of more than 300%. So very efficient and, of course, less costly. This is something what where we are also very proud because the company, as I said, was founded in 2009, but we started with our operations in March 2013 here in Europe and parallel in the US. We already have got some significant awards. Last year at VMworld, we got the Gold Award for storage and backup for virtualized environments. This was already last year. VMworld in Barcelona just closed about 2 weeks ago. No, 2 weeks ago. We got another award. One of our partners got an award for best cloud provisioning within a VMware environment. The Gartner thing is also very important for us because we managed to jump on the Magic Quadrant as a visionary within a very short time frame. And if some of you in the audience is familiar with how this works with Gartner, normally it takes you much longer. So after half a year, now we are on the visionary quadrant, and if you want to have more insights into that, I think you can see that on the Gartner website. A lot of events. You see a couple of customers on this slide, and we are 100% channel company. So every transaction what we do through our partners. We're building the partner ecosystem as we speak. Today we have about 130, 140 partners in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So coming back, summary. I think maybe you got a little bit bored now about this slide, but I have to repeat it because this is very important. We combine these two worlds. If you remember this, the slide with where we're talking about the different kind of convergence. Convergence 1, and this is, as I said, it's the EMC, VCE kind of stuff. This is very enterprise driven. And then from a cloud economics point of view and a web scale point of view, you find that more in the Converge 2.0. We can combine these two worlds. We can combine that, and we call it hyper-converged. And this is what we offer. And if you would like to have more insight in the technology, how we're going to do this kind of dedupe, compress, and optimization in the PCI card, how we're going to handle that with the virtual machines, you're more than happy to step by at our booth and get a demo, or call us and we come to you and give you a demo. With that, I would like to thank you. I know it's late on the day, and I really appreciate that you have been coming here and listening, even if it's not your own language. If there are any questions, we can open up the questions for you now, or you can ask the question at the booth, whatever you feel more comfortable. Okay? No questions? Who has heard about SimpliVity before? 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. 4. Thank you very much for your attention. And with that, I think you are. I think lunch is served, or what was that before? I think everyone is hungry. Have a nice lunch. Thank you very much again for listening, and I hope to have you as a customer or as a partner in the near future. Thanks.